Welcome to Crime Podcastle, Unsolved Mystery Series, Episode 20. Today, we're diving deep into a case that's both fascinating and unsettling.
Oh,
The
definitely.
death of Rajiv Dixit.
It really is a story.
Yeah.
With activism and controversy and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Exactly.
Just perfect for our Unsolved Mystery series.
Now, for those who might not be familiar with him, Rajiv Dixit was a prominent figure in India, particularly known for his role in the Swadeshi movement.
Right.
Can you give us a little background on that movement and Dixit's place in it?
Absolutely. The Swadeshi movement, which essentially means self-reliance, gained momentum in India during the early 20th century as part of the struggle for independence from British rule.
Right.
It encouraged people to boycott foreign goods and embrace locally made products to boost the Indian economy and to foster a sense of national pride. Dixit, born in 1967, became a leading voice of this movement in the later part of the 20th century and into the 21st century.
So he was carrying on this legacy of promoting Indian industries and self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
What were some of the specific things that he advocated for?
Well, Dixit was known for his powerful speeches, often delivered to large crowds, where he passionately advocated for the revival of traditional Indian practices, particularly in healthcare and economics.
Yeah.
He was a staunch critic of what he saw as the dominance of Western influence in these areas. He really believed that multinational corporations were exploiting India and that a return to indigenous practices was the key to the nation's well-being.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Rejecting the Western model and looking back to traditional Indian practices. Can you elaborate on what some of those traditional practices were that he promoted?
One of his major focuses was Ayurveda, a traditional Indian system of medicine that emphasizes holistic healing through herbal remedies, dietary practices, and lifestyle changes. Dixit saw Ayurveda as a more natural and effective alternative to what he considered the intrusive and often harmful practices of Western medicine. He also promoted the use of locally made products, particularly in the food and textile industries, as a way to support local businesses and reduce reliance on foreign goods.
So he was really advocating for a return to traditional values and practices in many aspects of life.
Yeah.
That must have resonated with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But also probably ruffled some feathers, especially among those who benefited from the existing systems that he was criticizing.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Dixit had a large and devoted following, drawn to his charismatic personality and his message of national pride and self-reliance. However, his outspoken criticism of multinational corporations, particularly in the soft drink, pharmaceutical, and food industries, made him some powerful enemies.
It sounds like he was walking a tightrope, challenging powerful interests and amassing a significant following. Was he ever open about any concerns for his safety given his very public criticisms?
Yes, and that's where things take a darker turn. Dixit frequently spoke about receiving death threats and believed that his activism had made him a target.
Wow.
He even expressed fears of being poisoned, which, sadly, adds a chilling layer to the events that unfolded later.
Okay, so we have this backdrop of a charismatic leader, controversial views, and a sense of looming danger.
Yeah.
What exactly happened to Rajiv Dixit?
On November 30th, 2010, at the relatively young age of 43, Dixit died suddenly while attending a conference in Bhilai, Chhattisgarh.
That's incredibly young. What was the official cause of death given?
The official cause given was cardiac arrest. He reportedly felt unwell and passed away shortly after. However, the circumstances surrounding his death immediately raised suspicion among his followers.
What specifically fueled those suspicions?
Well, a crucial piece of information was missing: a detailed autopsy report. This lack of transparency, especially considering Dixit's prior claims of receiving death threats and his fear of being poisoned, added fuel to the fire of speculation.
I can see how that would be troubling.
Yeah.
Without a thorough autopsy, how could anyone definitively say what caused his death?
Exactly.
It leaves a lot of room for doubt, especially given the context of his life and work.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever come forward with any explanation for why an autopsy wasn't conducted?
Right.
Or at least why the results weren't made public?
That's the thing, that there wasn't a clear explanation offered, which, of course, further fueled the suspicions and conspiracy theories surrounding his death. Some people believe that powerful entities may have had a hand in covering up the true cause of his death, fearing the potential repercussions if it were revealed that he was murdered.
Wow. So not only was there a lack of answers, but there was also a lack of transparency, which always creates more questions than it answers.
Right.
I imagine that in the absence of clear information, people started to form their own theories about what really happened to Dixit.
Exactly. The void left by the missing autopsy report was quickly filled with speculation, and a number of conspiracy theories emerged.
What were some of the most prevalent theories?
Perhaps the most popular theory, given Dixit's own statements about fearing for his life, was that he was poisoned.
Right.
This idea resonated strongly with his followers, who already believed he was being targeted for his activism.
Without a toxicology report, it would be almost impossible to rule that out, right?
Precisely. The absence of that key piece of evidence only lent credence to the poisoning theory.
Right.
Then there's the corporate conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Dixit was a vocal critic of multinational corporations, accusing them of exploiting India and harming its people.
Yeah, he specifically called out the soft drink, pharmaceutical, and food industries.
Exactly.
If I remember correctly, I could see how those industries might have seen him as a threat to their profits and influence.
Exactly. Some people believe that these corporations may have felt threatened enough by Dixit's activism to take drastic measures to silence him.
Did he ever name specific companies or individuals that he felt were targeting him?
While he spoke broadly about these industries and their practices, he didn't generally single out specific companies or individuals by name.
So it's more of a general suspicion directed at those industries as a whole, rather than a specific accusation against any particular entity.
Right.
What about political motives? Was Dixit involved in any political activities that might have made him enemies in those circles?
That's another angle that can't be easily dismissed. Remember, Dixit wasn't just an advocate for economic independence.
Right.
He was also a nationalist, openly critical of policies he felt undermined India's sovereignty.
Okay.
This inevitably led to friction with certain political factions who may have viewed his stance as a challenge to their authority.
So we've got these three main theories: poisoning, corporate conspiracy, and political conspiracy, all fueled by the lack of a transparent investigation and that missing autopsy report.
Right.
It's a recipe for a lot of unanswered questions and speculation. What happened next? Were there any further investigations, or did things just sort of fade away?
That's where the story gets even more frustrating. Despite the public outcry and the numerous unanswered questions, there wasn't a thorough, independent investigation into Dixit's death. The official narrative of cardiac arrest remained largely unchallenged, leaving many feeling that justice hadn't been served.
It's almost as if the powers that be wanted to sweep the whole thing under the rug and hope it would just go away.
Yeah.
But I bet Dixit's followers weren't satisfied with that outcome.
You're absolutely right. They continued to demand answers and justice, organizing protests and keeping Dixit's message alive through his speeches and writings.
It seems like even in death, he remained a symbol of resistance and a reminder of the dangers faced by those who challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
It's a pretty heavy story, and we've only just scratched the surface. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve deeper into the theories surrounding Dixit's death and the lasting impact he had on India.
It really is a case that raises a lot of unsettling questions about power, activism, and the pursuit of truth.
Okay, so we've laid out these different theories surrounding Dixit's death. Let's dig into them a bit more.
Okay.
Starting with the poisoning theory. Aside from Dixit's own expressed fears, was there any other evidence, even circumstantial, that suggested poisoning might have been a possibility?
Well, aside from the lack of a toxicology report, there were whispers of certain details that added to the suspicion. Some reports claim that Dixit's body had turned blue after his death, a phenomenon that some associate with certain types of poisoning.
Hold on. His body turned blue. That sounds pretty alarming. Was that ever officially confirmed? Or was it just hearsay?
Unfortunately, like many aspects of this case, it's hard to separate fact from speculation. The blue discoloration was primarily reported by individuals close to Dixit and wasn't officially documented or corroborated by medical professionals.
So it's more anecdotal evidence that feeds into the suspicions rather than hard proof. It's understandable why people would latch onto those details, especially when there's a vacuum of official information.
Exactly.
Wow.
Those small details, even if unverified, become magnified in the absence of a clear explanation. Now let's talk about the corporate conspiracy theory. We know Dixit was a thorn in the side of multinational corporations. But did he ever take any concrete actions against them that might have provoked a more extreme response?
Like, did he organize boycotts or launch any legal challenges against these companies?
He did organize boycotts of certain products, particularly soft drinks, urging his followers to embrace traditional Indian beverages instead.
Okay.
He also actively campaigned against the use of pesticides and genetically modified crops, practices he linked directly to multinational corporations.
So he was hitting them where it hurts, their bottom line.
Yeah.
And he was doing it quite effectively, mobilizing a large number of people to join his cause.
Right. He had a talent for connecting with people and making them feel like they were part of a movement larger than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to imagine why certain powerful interests might have felt threatened by his influence.
Did he ever face any legal challenges from these corporations, like defamation lawsuits or attempts to silence him through legal means?
There were some instances where companies threatened legal action against him for his claims,
Okay.
but nothing that escalated into a full-blown court battle.
Right.
Perhaps they realized that taking him to court would only give him a larger platform and draw more attention to his cause.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Sometimes ignoring a critic can be more effective than engaging with them.
Right.
But in Dixit's case, that didn't seem to deter him at all.
No.
He continued to speak out, louder and bolder.
Yeah.
What about the political conspiracy theory?
Right.
Were there specific policies or political figures that he targeted in his criticism?
He was a vocal critic of economic policies that he felt were detrimental to India's interests, particularly those that promoted globalization and foreign investment at the expense of local industries. He believed these policies were making India dependent on foreign powers and undermining its economic sovereignty.
So he was challenging the prevailing economic orthodoxy,
Yeah.
essentially advocating for a more protectionist approach.
Yes, and he didn't shy away from naming specific politicians who he felt were responsible for these policies, accusing them of corruption and of prioritizing foreign interests over the well-being of the Indian people.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
He was making some serious accusations against those in power.
Right.
I imagine that didn't win him any friends in high places.
You're right.
Yeah.
It made him a controversial figure, and it's plausible that some of those who felt targeted by his criticism may have wanted to silence him.
This is all so intriguing, but incredibly frustrating at the same time.
Yeah.
We have all these unanswered questions, these suspicions,
Right.
and yet no clear answers.
Right.
What stands out to you most about this whole case? What's the most perplexing aspect of it all?
For me, it's the lack of transparency and the feeling that something just doesn't add up. We have a prominent figure, outspoken in his criticism of powerful entities,
Right.
who dies suddenly under suspicious circumstances.
Right.
And yet there's no thorough investigation, no conclusive answers.
Yeah.
It leaves you with this sense of unease, a feeling that perhaps we're not getting the whole story.
You're right. It almost feels like there was a deliberate attempt to obfuscate the truth,
Right.
to make it difficult to get to the bottom of what really happened.
That's the thing about unsolved mysteries. They
Yeah.
linger in our minds,
Right.
prompting us to question, to seek answers,
Mhm.
and to never fully accept easy explanations.
Dixit's case certainly falls into that category.
Absolutely.
It's a story that invites us to think critically, to examine the evidence, and to draw our own conclusions, even in the absence of definitive proof.
Even though he's gone, Dixit's legacy continues to inspire both admiration and debate.
Right.
His message of self-reliance and his critique of globalization continue to resonate with many, even as others question his methods and the feasibility of his vision.
So even though he's gone, his ideas live on.
Exactly. His story serves as a reminder that even in the face of powerful opposition, one person's voice can make a difference.
Yeah.
It can spark movements, challenge established norms,
Right.
and inspire others to question the world around them.
His life and death also highlight the risks that come with speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
The dangers that activists and whistleblowers often face when they challenge the status quo.
Definitely.
It's a sobering thought,
Yeah.
but it also speaks to the courage and conviction of those who refuse to be silenced even when their lives are at stake.
It's a potent reminder that the fight for justice and transparency is an ongoing one, and that we must remain vigilant in holding those in power accountable.
Well said. It seems that Rajiv Dixit's story is more than just an unsolved mystery.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the power of ideas, the complexities of activism,
Right.
and the importance of seeking truth, even when it's elusive.
You've summed it up perfectly. It's a story that continues to intrigue, provoke, and inspire even years after his passing.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the life and legacy of Rajiv Dixit,
Right.
I want to leave you with a thought. What do you think is the most enduring aspect of his story? What message do you think resonates most strongly with people, even today?
I think it's his unwavering belief in the power of the individual to make a difference.
Yeah.
He inspired people to take control of their lives, to embrace their heritage, and to stand up for what they believed in, even when facing powerful opposition.
Right.
That message of empowerment, of self-reliance, continues to resonate deeply, even in a world that can often feel overwhelming and beyond our control.
It's that idea of reclaiming agency, of not being a passive bystander in your own life,
Yeah.
that really resonates with me.
And it's a message that transcends cultural boundaries,
Yeah.
whether you're in India or anywhere else in the world. The idea of taking ownership of your choices, your health, your economic well-being, it's a powerful and universal concept.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how Dixit tied that personal empowerment to a broader vision of national sovereignty and self-reliance.
Right.
He saw those things as intertwined, didn't he?
Yes, he firmly believed that a nation could only be truly strong and independent if its people were empowered and self-sufficient.
Right.
He saw the reliance on foreign goods and systems as a form of dependency that weakened India both economically and culturally.
So it wasn't just about individual choices.
Right.
It was about a collective shift in mindset,
Yeah.
a reclaiming of national identity and pride.
Precisely. He wanted people to see that their individual actions could contribute to a larger movement for change.
Yeah.
For a more just and equitable society.
Though he's no longer here, is there anyone who's carrying that torch forward?
Mm-hmm.
Did any of his initiatives or organizations continue after his death?
Yes, the Farhat Swabhiman Trust, which Dixit co-founded with Yoga Guru Baba Ramdev,
Right.
continues to operate and promote many of the principles he championed. They advocate for the use of traditional Indian medicine, promote sustainable agriculture practices, and encourage people to support local businesses.
So even though he's gone, his vision lives on through the work of this organization.
It's a testament to the impact he had and
Yeah.
the way he inspired others to take up the cause.
You know, it's striking how, even with all the controversy surrounding his death,
Yeah.
the focus always seems to come back to his ideas, his message, his legacy.
Right.
It's almost as if the mystery, while captivating, becomes secondary to the impact he had.
It speaks to the enduring power of ideas.
Yeah.
Even when the circumstances surrounding a person's life or death are shrouded in mystery,
Right.
their message can continue to resonate and inspire.
And in Dixit's case, that message seems to be particularly potent, touching on themes of national pride, self-reliance, and a return to traditional values.
Right.
It's a message that clearly struck a chord with many people.
It's a reminder that even in a world dominated by globalization and technological advancements, there's a deep yearning for connection to one's roots,
Yeah.
for a sense of belonging and identity.
Dixit tapped into that yearning. And even though his life was cut short, his message continues to reverberate, prompting us to question, to explore,
Yeah.
and to consider alternative ways of living and being in the world.
Perhaps that's the most fitting tribute to his legacy, to continue the conversation,
Wow.
to engage with the ideas he put forth, and to keep seeking answers, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
Well said. Rajiv Dixit's story, though marked by tragedy and unanswered questions, ultimately leaves us with a sense of hope.
Yeah.
A belief in the power of ideas to spark change, and a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the pursuit of truth and justice is a journey worth taking.
And for those of you listening who are intrigued by this story and want to delve deeper, I encourage you to explore the resources available online. There are numerous articles, videos, and documentaries that offer different perspectives on Dixit's life and work.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysterious world of Rajiv Dixit, don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle for more captivating explorations of unsolved mysteries.
Yes.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the flame of curiosity burning bright.